Hi, my name's Lee Jasper. This is Brixton, London, and you're watching Lee Jasper Drive Time. Hi, you're watching Lee Jasper Interviews, and we're outside Lambeth Town Hall. Brixton, Lambeth, an iconic area of the country, and probably the first recipient of the Windrush generations who came many moons ago. Today, the Home Office is holding a consultation around compensation for Windrush victims. And there's been a whole swelter of criticism about the government's plans to offer this compensation. And when one looks at the compensation strategy, one sees it's full of tripwires, exclusions, clauses that will undoubtedly limit the extent to which people can access proper consultation.
I think the government compensation scheme isn't right for everybody, and I think they need to review what they've done, and people need to really look into what they're actually offering, the small print, the T's and C's. That's what we need to be looking at, and we need to be having time to look into that so that we can kind of make some real assessment about whether it's fair for everybody, because it's one size fits all, and that ain't right.
It's crap. I mean, you can't really compensate people for the way they've been treated by this government. The Windrush scandal exposed the racism of the British state. People who came here as citizens, right, lived here for 40, 50 years, found themselves losing their jobs, their pensions, their dignity, the right to stay in the UK under our watch. That is unacceptable. So when you're talking about compensation, someone went to a funeral in Jamaica and they can't come back for 30 years. You can't really compensate somebody for that.
I think it's a pale, pathetic scheme and offers a pale, pathetic amount to people.
The reality is that the Windrush scandal revealed the racism of the immigration laws right back to the 60s and 70s, and that's really what we want to address. Yeah. It's opened the can of worms, and I think shown a lot of people the reality of the racism that still runs through to this day. Yeah. That's why we're campaigning for the descendants, for the wider families and relatives who have been denied when the Commonwealth citizens' rights were taken away. Yeah. And that's, you know, and we think we can win, but it's going to take the mobilising our communities.
I mean, what we've been fighting on is actually most of the people we're representing in Movement for Justice and bringing Windrush cases. They're not even eligible for the compensation scheme because they're told they're not eligible for the Windrush scheme because they're the descendants and family members of the Windrush generation. The people who came later, they're still at risk of detention and deportation. So the Windrush scheme as a whole is flawed and inadequate and does not meet the needs of the community.
Now we have a Windrush victim here, somebody who's been not eligible for compensation because of the exclusion criteria hidden in the small print of this awful compensation scheme.
My grandfather is a Windrush generation, also my uncles and cousins, my partner. They all came here in the 1940s. And my grandfather spent 49 years in the army, and his children are still here, grandchildren are still here, and I came here on a right of abode, and the Home Office still have all those documents. They cannot be found. 2018, March, I was taken into Yarlswood detention.
So you were taken, arrested and detained?
Yes, and detained in Yarlswood, where even their food was so horrible, and I gathered infection on my stomach, which I'm still suffering at the moment, and I'm still waiting on a decision from the Home Office, which I don't know what is going on anyway.
I'm here for my son. He was arrested for an offense last year. He's been here since he was 4 years old. He's now 23, and the Home Office is trying to deport my son. What? He's currently been held beyond his release date. Yes, so we're waiting on a bail hearing for him to get bail to come out.
So where is he currently? Is he in detention centre or prison?
He's in Belmar still.
So he's in the top security, the top security venue prison in the country? And All for deportation. What, is he a big-time criminal? What's going on?
No, he's not. Just petty offences, really. And he's been here since he was 4, but because he doesn't have his British passport, they said they're going to deport him. And he has no one in Jamaica because his dad was murdered out there, and all his families are here.
I think right now we should mobilise and everybody needs to kind of come together to find a way to let them know that we ain't standing for this. We ain't going to take it lying down.
Well, first of all, they have to compensate, right? And then they have to change the laws. It's important that we have a government, and hopefully we'll get a Labour government that will change those laws that even going back to 1906, never mind 1973. We need to make sure that free movement is acceptable and agreed by a Labour government. And crucially, as we are about to exit the European Union, we have to ensure that black people's interests and aspirations are properly articulated and represented.
I think the Windrush scheme needs to be expanded. It needs to be expanded to include the children and family members who joined their Windrush generation family after 1988. The people who came as adults later because they couldn't afford to come sooner. The people who were born British citizens but couldn't join their families. It needs to be included, all of those people. The problem is the law, the racist laws from, in 1968, in 1971, the immigration acts that are now blighting black and Asian people's lives were passed under the shadow of Enoch Powell deliberately to stop black and Asian people from coming to this country. Those laws need to change if there's going to be lessons learned.
Our foreparents, we are the generation of them, and this Windrush generation, it should be extended. Our descendants should be extended more and be counted more.
The horror that people are having to go through, denial of benefits, detained in detention centres, arrested, can't get NHS treatment, can't get education. This is not a compensation scheme. This is a scheme, C-O-N scheme. Because by the time you finish read the small print, half of the people who are applying are not going to be allowed to claim their compensation. So we think the compensation scheme is rubbish. We think people should take their cases to court. You'll get paid more money in court. It'll take a longer time, but you'll get more money than these people will offer you. Don't take the short-term money. Get justice in the courts. You all think that the Windrush thing is sorted out. They're still detaining and deporting our people. It's not sorted out.
We need to see a complete end to the hostile environment. We need to see the granting of citizenship to all the people who have lived here, studying here, working here, who basically are already part of the society. A shutdown of the detention centres, which is basically incarceration just for immigration purposes. The fact that immigration is treated like itself such a criminal offence of such high proportions is for racist reasons. And it's selling a false idea to citizens to think that their competition is immigrants. With the time of Brexit, and the ending free movement and the attack on immigration with that, it is a way to divide and rule the working class, the poor and exploited.
We have a god-awful compensation scheme that is festooned with tripwires, administrative exclusions. You can't claim for this, you can't claim for that. We've got a government that says it's sorry for the Windrush, but continues to arrest and deport people as we speak. We've got a compensation scheme that is big on headlines and short on detail on who it applies to. And I would say this government has announced this compensation scheme so it can save money on its legal costs, so it doesn't have to pay the kind of money that the court would undoubtedly fine it if these cases were to go to court. So they're hoping that £200 million headline will draw you in to make your application for this compensation. And by the time you've endured 6 months of their process, you'll end up with chump change, no justice, and in exactly the same position. We're calling for a Windrush Day of Action. What we've got to do is on that Windrush Day of Action, we're holding 7 demonstrations in 7 cities to bring this country attention to the fact that black British citizens who have lived here all their lives are being subject to arbitrary deportation because of some technicality in some Commonwealth bollocks that was decided early 1970 plug. This is Lee Jasper outside Brixton Town Hall. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Thank you.